Amy Thurman back again with 100 Days, 100 Emotions. We're on day 65 today, talking about guilt. Boy, is this one I can relate to. And I'm sure those of you watching can relate to this as well, because it's something that we all have, we've all experienced. But I think it's one of those that we push down, that we hide, that we don't like to talk about. And so this is going to be a really good conversation. I can just feel it, to be able to talk about this and how it affects our lives, but also what we can learn from it. Remember, if you would like to see the others, this is a series of 100. Go to hashtag 100 days, 100 emotions. That's the numerical number 100. Streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can catch those there. And if you would like to be a special guest, please reach out to me. Either leave a comment or send me a message. I would love to get you plugged in. We can find an emotion that works for you. And I have a special surprise for my guest that I have not announced yet, but it's definitely something you will want to be part of. So let me know if you'd like to be a part of this. Okay, let's jump into this and let's talk about guilt today. I want to introduce you to my guest. This is Scott Whitney. Scott, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Of course, I'm so thankful that you're willing to take your time today and spend with us to share your experience. Today we're talking about guilt. Let me just pop this up here and let's chat about this for just a second. This says that guilt is a self-condemning feeling that can be accompanied by a sense of responsibility for the harm or hurt caused to others or to oneself. And when I think about this may not set well with a lot of people, but the biggest guilt I have probably ever felt was in religious institutions. It's like that's kind of what they thrive on. I feel like I grew up in a very strict religious institution, and I felt like guilt was kind of the driving factor in a lot of those. And so that's what comes to mind when I think of guilt, is if I don't do things a certain way or in the way that, people say I'm supposed to do them, then I was made to feel guilty for that. And so it's an internal thing. But Scott, I would love for you to share with us your experience with guilt and what you have learned from it, what has taught you in your life.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess thinking about it before we start linking guilt and disability, and like you've linked it to religious institutes, I think the original kind of guilt that I felt would have been if I was skipping something that I knew that was important to someone else because I wanted to do something which was
Mm,
important to me, but
right.
maybe less so. And I think, that's kind of how I used to feel guilty. Um, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to link it to disability. And the reason why I wanted to start with that was because when I used to think I felt really guilty because I'd done something like that, it may have been at a scale of 2 out of 10, when we're now at kind of an 8 or a 9 out of 10.
Mm.
Um, so the overwhelming feeling of guilt uh, can be, it can almost, make you not be able to move. It can really weigh down on you.
Paralyzes you, yes.
Yeah. So I guess there's a lot of ways I've experienced guilt since I've been disabled, but it's never ever because I feel guilty for being disabled. That's not the case. I'm proud to be disabled. I'm, I enjoy the life I live, but
Man, I could talk about that for hours. Oh my
yeah,
goodness. Yes. Go ahead.
but where I think probably the worst guilty feeling that I have is if I promise something to my children.
Mm.
So I say to them, right, I'm going to take you to a soft play centre or to the park, and then I'm unable to because I'm unwell through my disability. I
Yeah.
know it's no fault of my own, but children, a lot of children don't mask things very well, and when you see their eyes and their bottom lip come out, and
Mm.
they're then trying to look as happy as they can to protect my feelings, when in reality it's me that's let them down. And that's something that it just strickens me, and it's something that I kind of hate doing. And then the next day, I might say, we'll try tomorrow. And then they might say, well, we know it. We probably won't be able to. And, that you are letting them down. You're not giving them what I want to give them. And it's not it's not through a lack of want,
Right.
but through a lack of just not being able to. And there's been times, because of this guilt that kind of gets you with it, that actually it's someone else that's saying, no, you're not doing it, because because then they're scared. And this would be the worst. I would then feel even more guilty, as if I go out and something happens and I start having a seizure, or someone needs to call an ambulance and I'm out with them. So it's always a real sort of balancing act, and it makes it really, really hard to be able to plan things. So for me, that's one of the biggest kind of experiences. I feel that I've let them down.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it kind of trickles on at things like, not necessarily going out, and, them almost parenting me at, single digit ages, which shouldn't be, the case. They shouldn't have to kind of go in, see me in a room and pull my sheet kind of up so I'm not going to get cold, and then kiss me on the head and kind of go out and quietly close the door. Things like that aren't what you'd expect from children of that age.
Yeah. Scott, this resonates with me so deeply, because it's pretty much my story. I don't know, for those of you watching, Scott and I both live on disability because we have issues that don't allow us to function as able-bodied people are. And there's a whole stigma around that, which is a whole different show. But I know exactly what you're talking about, because the accident that broke my neck, that caused me to have to lay flat in a bed for 23 hours a day for almost a year, my little guy, my daughter was a senior in high school. My son was a freshman in high school, but my little guy was 4 years old at that time. I completely missed that entire year of their lives. But he's 13 now. But at 4 years old, I know exactly what you're talking about, because he became his mission to take care of me, to make sure that nothing was going to happen to me, to feel like he had to protect me. And it's not, I don't feel like it's fair. They shouldn't have to feel that way. But I will say this, that my older kids, now my daughter's 26 and my son's 23, that will tell me that it was a really good thing that happened to them, because they saw what it's like to have a person who is not able-bodied and to see what they have to go through. So my older kids are more compassionate, they're more loving, they're more helping, because they were able to see a different side of it. And so I just shared that to say that although it's so hard right now because they're so little, that as they get older, it's really going to be a benefit to them. And I just hope that you're able to find that, at some point in your life, that it really will benefit them. But it's such a guilt-ridden place right now. I so get that.
And I mean, my eldest is now 13, or no, sorry, my middle child is now 13. I've got an older child who doesn't who wasn't sort of living at home at the sort of time, and then the youngest one is 7. So I can see already, that, like you said, the word compassion, and that is probably the key word, and appreciation as well. Kind of, my middle daughter will come home and say, glad dad didn't come with me. He wouldn't have been able to have done this. And she would then see the inaccessibility in a shop or a cinema or wherever it is. So she's able now to, point out, yeah, that's wrong. This needs to be like that, and so forth. So that's really good, because over in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same with yourselves as well, people don't get taught accessibility. So you can go all the way through school, all the way through uni, college, etc. And then you can do 3 or 4 years on the job and you're an architect. That architect has to then, once they're qualified, start then learning about accessibility off their own back. So this is why we have society and things like that, which is not integrated. It's still built for someone who's non-disabled, whereas a local kind of bowling alley, it has 5 steps where if you come out of the door and you walk in a straight line, it's got 5 steps. But if you go a little bit further, there's a gradual ramp that takes you up. And if you sit and watch, everyone, non-disabled or disabled, virtually goes up the ramp. No one really uses the steps. So by learning and teaching accessibility to people who are disabled actually helps all of society, not just people who are disabled.
Yeah, so true. It like changes your perspective completely. Like, I have to use it. I have a disabled placard, which I hang in my car when I park, so I can park in the disabled places. And mine could be considered an invisible disability because I don't always use my walking device. If it's close and I know it's going to be quick and I'm feeling, if I'm having a better day. But I have had people question me, when I'm not using the walking device, like, why are you using this plate, this parking place? And then I get to explain to them that I live with a broken neck and my brain is literally falling down into my neck, and it's, all this thing. And they regret that they asked me that question, but that's such a thing. Like, people don't think twice. I think people don't think twice about pulling into a disabled parking spot without the need to. They don't have a placard. They're not disabled. But for people like us, we need those spaces. Like, they're there for a reason. Have you experienced anything like that?
Well, I don't drive. There's no cars in my family. So actually, the times that I would be in the position where I might use it, we actually park, when it's with my friend, we park as far away as we can. So we don't park in the disabled spots. Now, I've got a blue badge, the disabled placard as well. So
Right.
in theory, I could park in that disabled bay, and I've got every right to. But because I'm with my friend, and if I'm with him and I'm in the car, I'm in my manual wheelchair, he would push me to the front of the shop and then sort of push me around. So there's no need for me to use the disabled bay, because I know I'm taking it away from someone who needs it. However, if I was there, in a couple of years' time with one of my daughters when they're driving and they're not able to push me, yes, I would be parking in that or we'll be parking in that spot because, it's a different situation then. But the reason we then park as far away is because that gap in the middle, that middle is where it's all crowded. So the further spaces, it still gives enough space to get in and out of the chair, but there's no requirement for me to be near the store. Obviously, if there is a requirement at any point, we would park there and use it. But yeah, over in the UK, there are a lot of people who get challenged and they shouldn't be challenged. And there's a lot of people that I speak to who have very visible physical disabilities who say, I saw someone park there and they got out and they walked into the shop. And I said, but we don't know what their disability is because you can't see every single disability.
Right.
And it could be something like a weak bladder. It could be mental health. And it could be something that kind of can come on all of a sudden, as in the symptoms can come on all of a sudden. So they might walk into the shop fine, but might walk out and you might then see that physical disability. So, you can't, if someone's got that blue badge, that disabled placard, they haven't just been given it for free.
Right.
They really need to go through a process to be able to get it. And in the UK, that process is not easy.
Right. It's not easy here either. And it's so interesting that you say that because I do the same thing. Like I will pull up and be like, do I think I have what it takes to walk further today? And so I won't use this disabled parking. I will use, a different one because I want to leave them open for the people I know who have to have it. So, man, that's so interesting. Yeah, it's so true. Gosh. Oh, so interesting. Okay, let me pull up this question real quick before we move on. The question for today is, what has guilt taught you? If for those of you watching, I would love for you to join in our conversation and share with us, what have you learned from guilt? What has guilt taught you? For me, it has taught me what I feel is important. Like Scott said, I don't want to let my kids down when they want me to do something that makes me feel guilty. That's something that I realize is important to me. And so if you would like to join in our conversation, please share with us what guilt has taught you. I would love for you to hop in here and chat with us. If you have seen these before, you know that I use an AI image generator to create an image that represents the emotion of the day. And so today's is about guilt. This one is interesting to me. Most of these, I love these. It's like art therapy. It's like you can see something in the image that represents the emotion, but I can't really pick it out at first. If you're just looking at it, you don't know, oh, that's guilt. It's like you really have to look at it from that lens. And so let me pop this up here. I'll full screen it and then we can chat about it for a minute before we move on here. But this is what it gave me when I asked it to represent guilt. Excuse me. It's so interesting to me because it's very striking. Like there are those sharp edges, those, straight kind of lines there. Make me feel like pain. Like that reminds me of pain. Those sharp edges can be painful. The dripping, but there are also some good things in here, like the circular areas and the main focus, that pink moon-like thing, draws my attention too. So it's like a conglomeration of things. Is there anything that jumps out at you, Scott?
Well, this is the first time I've seen it, so
Right.
so you've had a bit of an advantage over me. You've seen it before, but actually, if we link it back to that question as well, what has guilt taught us? It's taught me to prioritize. So let's just say I block out some time and I think, right, this is going to be time spent with my children. The next day is going to be time spent working on a project, and then watching a film or doing whatever. Well, what guilt can almost do is throw things up in the air and kind of mash things up. So this is almost the effects that guilt puts inside my brain, um, and it's not tidy. It's not nice. It's not a great feeling.
Right.
So what I've then kind of learned to do is actually say, right, let's just chill. What's the most important thing? Right, it's spending time with the kids. So if Saturday that doesn't work, well, actually the project work and the film's got to go to one side. And if I'm well enough on Sunday, I've got to just, use those priorities. Or could I then say, right, well, actually, I can get away with doing an hour of this, an hour of that, which would give me 3-4 hours with the children, etc. Or the film, it could be a child-friendly film. So there's different ways of being able to do it. So it's taught me, and what that image looks like kind of all fit in.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. It's one of the things I love about those images is because there's no right answer. Like whatever you see from your experience is what you pull out of that. And I learned so much from talking to people about analyzing those images from their experience because what you said is so true. It is like a jumble in your brain because you have to decide what to do with it and figure out what your priority is. Oh my goodness, so good, Scott. Thank you so much. I am so glad that you chose to be here. Thank you for sharing your story and your experience with us. It has been so good. I would love if you wouldn't mind taking a minute to share a little bit about yourself and what you do and how people can get a hold of you if they would like to work with you.
Yeah, so what I do is I run a social enterprise, a not for profit in a sense, which is called All for Inclusion. And the purpose, the mission of All for Inclusion is to help reduce loneliness in the disability community or the disabled community. Now, we're very much in our infancy at the minute. There's a lot that we can expand on, and we will do over the coming years. But at the moment, the focus is mainly on evenings, and we every Tuesday there is something on. So whether it be an educational webinar, whether it be a peer-to-peer support group, or whether it be a social event, maybe like a quiz or Zoom karaoke, which can be quite fun. And then Wednesdays we've got an art group, which is really going really well. And then we're also then pushing into Mondays now. So looking fast forward, I would love there to be 3 online events that we host for people 7 days a week, maybe 7 days a week, because we do have a lot of people from America who come in and join us, and with people from Africa and mainland Europe as well. So
That's
it's all
awesome.
really good, and it's just to be able to put that community vibe in and around, because being disabled can be lonely. It can be lonely if you've got people around you, and it can be lonely if you're on your own. And just to be able to do something and speak to someone else that really gets what you're going through. And the other thing that I really love about doing it is I think everyone really has a want. They love helping someone else, and by
Yes.
helping someone else, it gives them a bit of a energy boost.
Yeah.
And when someone comes in and they might have one problem that they might need support with, but they're able to give 2 little bits of advice to 2 other people, that really lifts them. And I think that's amazing. So, and that only happens because everyone is engaged and gets involved. So that's what All
That's
for Inclusion's all about.
that's amazing. Now, have you all done some live things on LinkedIn? I think I have seen you doing some things on there.
So I've done a 12-hour podcast in May where I interviewed 24 other guests. We had international sports people, people from TV. We started off in America, in Australia, and then went to Bali. Then we went to Uganda at one point, France, different parts of the world, and we finished off with a Paralympian from the USA was our final speaker. Represented the USA in 2 Olympics or Paralympics, so so it was really good. And Karen, who was the lady from America at the end, she was so full of energy, such a positive vibe. And then we finished off by bringing 4 or 5 other speakers in right at the end. So so we do that. And then I have a couple of podcasts as well. So I've got the All for Inclusion pod, which we're not going to record any more episodes of, but we have the 12-hour live will come out as podcasts in the new year, very early new year.
Oh, good.
It will be available, sort of 20, 30-minute podcasts. And then in February, so just after All for Inclusion has its 2nd birthday, we will then be bringing out a new podcast, which I'm just starting to record for, actually, a little bit later this evening. So that one's going to be about overcoming adversity. So it opens up, more kind of stories and different elements that can support not just the disabled community, but everyone.
Yeah. Oh, you're doing some amazing things, Scott. Oh my goodness. I know I need to get plugged in there more. Like I said, I've seen some of the things you're doing on LinkedIn, but I am going to go to your website. I'm going to check it out because it sounds amazing. Like, I would love to connect with people in that way too. So thank you again for being here and for choosing to spend this time with us. It has been an absolute delight, and I'm so thankful for you and all that you're doing.
No worries. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Okay, thank you all for watching. Thanks for being here and always supporting this series. I hope you're enjoying it. If you have found this helpful or think it will be helpful for others, please share it so that we can help others in that way too. And again, if you're interested in being a special guest, let me know. I would love to get you plugged in. Until tomorrow, I'll be back with another emotion. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.